And on this call, we have Heidi Rodriguez, our support person from our Tyler office, and Stephen Rudolph, who is going to be our presenter this afternoon. We're going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, please just either unmute yourself when you want to interrupt and ask a question, or just write it on the chat and we're going to monitor and type the answers. Also, we would like to have your email address so we can send back some information that you may want to need to share at your campuses or just to share within yourself. So thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Stephen.
All right, thank you and good afternoon. So we are recording this presentation, and we will post a link to the video file within the Teams chat that you'll have access to even after the meeting has been closed. So first of all, thank you for choosing to join this session. As Marcella had mentioned, my name is Stephen Rudolph. I'm Director of Business Development with Mentoring Minds, and work very closely with Elsa there at Houston Independent School District. So I'm going to move to a screen share here so that you can see the platform. I just get an indication that it is visible. There are issues, and I want to make sure that everyone is able to see. Marcella or Heidi, will you confirm for me, please?
Not yet.
No.
All right, thank you.
Now.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Sometimes there's a delay. That's why I always want to ask and make sure it comes through. So Elsa had invited us to do this session because of, well, with the situation that we're all living with, many of our students are going to be in a remote learning experience at some point or throughout the entire school year. And because a large number of campuses are purchasing the Mentoring Minds ThinkUp curriculum for ELAR, math, or science, she wanted to make sure that we were able to get the word out, because most everyone does it in a print-only format, that there is an online access to the content, and that there's also some other great benefits to the online platform that Mentoring Minds offers end-to-end. So I am logged in as a teacher into the ThinkUp Online. It's how within this K-12 enterprise software solution, which serves as a comprehensive instructional management platform. And the reason why I highlight that is because with the digital access to ThinkUp Online, you will have access to some other great features, such as uploading and hosting content that maybe you have curated at your campus for your classroom. So we do have within this assessment tab section of the platform the ability for you to upload your own personal resources, things that you may have stored currently on your own device, your computers, and upload it within the platform. So you can create a new resource or find and edit existing resources that you have previously uploaded. And with the creating a new resource, what it really does allow you to do is to connect the resource to a specific subject, grade level, and content standard that that resource is supporting. And the important piece of that is then when you assign those resources along with any of our ThinkUp content, and the system grades or interacts with it, it can be reported against depending on the type of resource and the way it's being used. So naturally, if you log into the resource manager section, the first step is going to be, where do you want to grab the resource from? Browse is going to open up your desktop browser and allow you to upload whatever file you have. It can be audio, video, illustrations, PowerPoints, and any type of multimedia resource that you want to upload into the system can be done through here. Enter the text. This is where maybe you want to typeset a brief story or information, or you want to copy and paste some type of passage that you have access to and embed it into the system, as well as you can go in and update add a link. So maybe you have saved several links to different Khan Academies or other special websites that you bring into your instruction. You can upload it and centralize it within the instructional management platform, so you can grab it very easily and with the assignments that you're pushing out with the ThinkUp materials. And you'll notice when I opened it up, it opened a new tab. So the platform functions very much like an internet browser. so that you can very quickly jump back and forth between content, and you can easily close out by just the way you close out a tab on your internet browser. On this home page, each of these boxes, are referred to as widgets. They can be customized. So there are certain widgets that you can pick from to have on your desktop. You can also change the naming to these widgets to mirror whatever it is that you want and need. So naturally, the system is designed to have recent pages visited, so that it leaves you a breadcrumb trail for anywhere you have visited, so that you can go back and jump very quickly back to that space in the event that you have logged in, did something, navigated away, and then kind of forgot how to get back there. You can quickly jump from your recent pages. And just like on any internet, you can favorite those pages so that you can jump to them at any time you want for quick access. And then the middle section would be for your class groups. So if you have multiple sections that you're teaching, you can have each class rostered and listed here. So this is just a quick hyperlink to jump you into your classroom roster, as well as you could favorite certain pages of that roster for quick and easy access. And so I'm just going to jump into the gradebook piece here really quick, just so you know that there is a lot of interaction and information that the system will provide you as you assign your ThinkUp content out to students, as well as if you have curated content of your own and assigned it out to the students, that would be tracked and managed from the student tracking report as well. But what I do want to do is make sure that you're also aware that this will be available to you as well with your ThinkUp online purchase, which is the ability to author content directly into the system. So the resource manager was about uploading resources like as files, docs, links, videos, and attachments that can be included with assigning work. But the question manager is a tool that will allow you to actually go in and create your own items to build your own assignments, whether you're looking to do some type of a bell warmer activity for students, maybe you're looking to create an exit ticket, or you're just wanting to do some extended practice on items that you have authored, maybe in a Word document or PDF file. So you can go into your question manager and actually upload that information. You can embed those multimedia resources directly within the item if you want to. So when the student logs in online and opens that item, perhaps there's a video for them to watch or an audio file for them to listen to of you maybe modeling or giving instructions or whatever link to a Khan Academy or so forth. But the questions section, you'll see it functions very much like a Word off Microsoft Office in the sense of authoring your content. So you can typeset directly in, but you can also embed multimedia directly within the actual question type as well. Bring in an illustration, a link, or video or audio file. It operates, like I said, like Word, Microsoft Word, but it definitely has some additional features in that we have built into the editing and authoring tool for those of you that are from mathematics. You can create your own word problems with the formulas in line directly with that to make the items mirror like the way they would appear on STAR. And then for those of you who might be doing science, and depending on grade level, you have your chemistry formulas. So you have those science formulas that you can build in to those items that you author as well. And then you can associate the item with the special accommodation. So if this is something that was developed for you or that you created to accommodate students that are on an IEP or perhaps 504, you can go ahead and label those and group those within the content collection based off of those accommodations or content attributes. And then you can identify the stems that you used or leveraged within the question type. So if you're using a Bloom's taxonomy stem or a Webb's depth of knowledge, you can identify that and then also determine what level of difficulty. And that aids when you go to search for your content in the system. If you want to look for specific items that you have authored that are at a certain level of Bloom's or a certain depth of knowledge or coded to a specific level of difficulty. So I just wanted to highlight that for you because that is included with the ThinkUp content when you're using the online platform to source and serve up the ThinkUp content for your students within your classroom. The other thing that is also available is you can customize reports and data based off of the assignments and work that students are doing within the system. But we also, and I'll highlight for you, we have some out-of-the-box, ready-to-go one-touch reports for the classroom as well as for the campus that already pre-configured and ready to go and give you some excellent data. And I'm going to highlight a couple of those for you right now. So as you noticed, I had launched in from the home page into my student tracker by just going into one of my class sections. So this is my class roster. From here, I can hyperlink directly into the student information where I can track performance, behavior, look at personalized student data, including standards mastery from within, as well as I'm able to launch directly into any of those assignments that I have pushed out to the students. And I'm just going to jump into this particular one. You'll see the assignment manager is what I opened up by clicking on the assignment, and it gives me lots of options to work with. And one of those options is to unsubmit. So in the event that you were going in and doing some pre-planning and you made this assignment and scheduled it out, but then you had to make a change to your pacing or your scope and sequence, then you can come in and simply unsubmit it so the students no longer have access to it, but you still have it already ready to go and to reassign again versus having to go back in and re-release it through those steps that I'll highlight when we go into the ThinkUp. It also will allow you to grade any of those open-ended responses. So the nice thing with the online is, and particularly if you're in a blended print and online solution, is you can still have students work out of the printed materials, but you can generate pre-slug scan sheets, quick answer keys. So the pre-slug scan sheet, the student would be able to input their responses there, show their work in the printed student edition, and then you're able to scan in those responses to be graded. Or you can utilize a quick answer key that will allow students to log in. They're still working from the printed book, but they can put their responses directly into the system, and that way the system will grade any of those selected response items and short answer response items, and then you can easily go in and grade essay and or other open response items that students will do. And so that's where you can go into the grade function and access that. Just highlight that very quickly for you because it does allow some additional features for you to input curve points. You can display the answers to the students from here. This particular assignment has not been submitted, but if I go into each student here, then what I can do is provide specific comments to the student that they'll be able to see when they log into their site. I can provide comments at the item level and use this for when I'm doing some reteaching, working with students that maybe struggled on some items. And while working with them, as they demonstrate that they clearly do understand the correct response, I can modify their score here to give them a better mark since they did get to it on their own. But these are just some nice features and functionality within the online system that makes your life a bit easier as a classroom instructor to have the system do a lot of the work for you and to help make implementation stronger and easier. The other thing that it's going to provide to you are those one-touch reports. And actually, I want to grab this one where there has been some work submitted. This reporting is going to be designed to give you an item analysis view to the assignment. It'll also provide you with the learning mastery in the sense of where are they on mastering the concept or skill based on their interactions with that concept through other assignments. So when I opened it, it defaulted to that item analysis. So these are those out of the box, ready to go reports that you get day one. Once you release an assignment and a student submits their work, you can view these reports and access this content. And so you get a nice breakdown on the item analysis, student for student across the top axis here. You get an overall class scoring as to how they did on each individual item. And then you also can expand on any one of the item cards and see if this example was a ELAR, which I believe it was, then you get the passage that the question stem was associated with, and then the response types. So this way you can utilize this to help better understand what might be an error or misconception that the or group of students have that completed that assignment and made those answer choices. I'm going to close out of that. You'll see across the bottom, you have 4 tabs. So the item analysis was the default when we open. The learning standards tab is that mastery tab. So this is where we're looking at each individual TEK and we're looking across our class and we're seeing where we are on mastery for those skills, which is going to be very beneficial as I'm planning for my spiraled review and reteach and interventions with students that are struggling. And then you'll have your overall class scorecard. So you have some great at-a-glance graphic reference to see how you're doing with your kiddos, and then a breakdown on those individual assignments and demographics. And then you can have a more detailed breakdown of a demographical view of performance analysis within here as well. So as I mentioned, each of these are ready to go day one when you log into your materials. And then it also allows you to preview the assignment, and then say a new student just got added into your classroom and you want to add them to the assignment, you can release this assignment to an additional student that you just added to your class roster. So it gives you some great functionality here from within the system. Now, I'm going to close out of the tracking system, and I'm going to go into the curriculum section where we will get into the ThinkUp content in the online forum. I do want to pause to see if there are any questions that have been added into the feed yet before I move into the next piece. So Heidi and Marcella, are there any questions that I need to address?
Hi, Stephen. Currently, there are no questions. Just to let everyone know, I did post a link to a review that we have on our website around HP3 and ThinkUp ELR alignment for anyone to share at their convenience. To review at their convenience. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. And yes, for those of you who are early literacy teachers, noting that our ThinkUp ELAR content does follow the latest with the TEKS. So all of your revising, editing, and composition for every TEK is within the unit, which we'll highlight as we go through the materials. But we also do address TEKS within those grade levels. Our products are really designed to be a reading to learn versus learning to read product, but we do provide those supports in grades 1 through 5, where we have the foundational language knowledge and a breakdown of those phonics TEKS and strategies that you can leverage with students that are delayed before you take them into the main instructional process. So up here on the curriculum section, you'll see that you'll have access to your ThinkUp. But there's a couple of other things here that I just want to point out for you. We do have an online lesson planning tool that you can leverage. So if you have resources that you've uploaded into the system that you want to bring into your assignment, you can add those resources directly from within the platform. You can create and generate your specific planner. And then we're able to bring in and follow, this gradual release instructional format that the planner is designed for. And you can drag and drop resources from the resource section, directly typeset in information. So it's a very user-friendly tool for you to build out your lesson plans. So it's available to you to use beyond our ThinkUp. You can use it just to plan out your ThinkUp, or you can use it to plan out your entire instructional day. Also within the curriculum section, you'll see this content collection manager. So if you are authoring in your own items or uploading resources, and you want to put them into shareable folders so that you can share this resource out across your campus, or even share it with other HISD schools that are in network with regards to having purchased the ThinkUp content, you can generate a content collection, which is either a private folder or a shareable folder, and then you can upload and map your content directly into it. The curriculum section here, this is really, just so you know, the system is designed to be able to host like other content curriculum. So if you had HMA, we would be able to integrate that in, but we're not doing that right now with HISD. And so the launch ThinkUp is where you would go in and kick off into your content. So now I'm in the ThinkUp tab. If I have multiple subjects, then it's going to simply give me a drop-down menu to pick from those content areas that I'm working with. I'm just going to go ahead and grab language arts. And then I might be teaching with multiple grades if I'm an interventionist or in special education, or I simply will have my grade level content for my classroom. The content is, as many of you are aware, in 1st through 5th grade. It's available in English and Spanish, both in the print and in the online. So you can very easily and quickly toggle back and forth between those languages based on your classroom and audience that you're working with. And then with opening up into, into the system, you'll notice here this diagnostic assessment tool. So Mentoring Minds has been very forward thinking in response to the COVID-19 issues, and the fact that we have so many students that never return to school after spring break, when they left for spring break, and that we have a huge learning gap issue that we need to address when we do start working with our kiddos. So we have and uploaded into the system a diagnostic assessment that will allow you, so in this example, I'm a third grade teacher, but I have a diagnostic assessment that's actually going to go back and address second grade. Since we don't have STAR to look back on and we don't have a lot of benchmark details from the previous school year, this is going to be, depending on the grade level, anywhere from like 20 to 50 items that are addressing the previous grade level of those requisite skills, so that we can really identify and determine where the students are in their preparedness for going into third grade content. Now, what's really nice too is after we administer the diagnostic assessment, then we have what I mentioned when I was showing you those one-touch reports and the assignment manager, there was a Reteach Enrich tab. So after any assignment, including this diagnostic, you have the ability to launch into the Reteach and Enrich, and then it will group the students together based on who's performing at the various performance bands, such as did not meet, is approaching, met expectations, and exceeding expectations, and allow you to group those students within the platform and then assign out content. But particularly for those students in the red and yellow who did not meet and are approaching, you would be served up second grade ThinkUp intervention and instructional activities that you can use with these students in order to help get them up to speed. Now, I do have, because that particular piece has not been updated in the system, but I do have a rendering of the Reteach Enrich and the next steps piece that I'd like to highlight for you here. This is something that's been coded and is being uploaded into the system. It just has not made it into my demo account yet because we developed this for back to school. But you can see here, this is a standards mastery snapshot. This is from the Reteach Enrich report. And here it's grouping my students that I assessed within my classroom based off of where they are. I will be able to click on the little class link here and group them in the system so I can bring my severely delayed and those that are approaching, because I might want to work with them slightly differently because these are on the bubble, these are very far behind. And then I can go in and look at the individual items that they struggled with within the assignment. The little hourglass will allow me to open up that item card, right, to view the passage and or the question stem and answer choices in order to help me and for that Reteach and Enrich. But the next step piece is the part that will allow me, and I'm going to close this one out and go to the other rendering that I have in here for next steps. And then it's going to allow you to drill down and then go into the actual second grade content that is vertically aligned to this TEK in the third grade, right? And it's going to be the same across the grade levels. So we do have the diagnostic for reading in second grade through eighth grade, and then math and science, we offer it first through eighth grade. And so what this will do from that diagnostic perspective is offer up second grade content that supports that second grade diagnostic assessment that say they still need to get these foundational skills before they're ready to go to that vertically aligned content skill in the third grade level. The My Resources section here will be for where we've tagged some specific links and videos and other instructional support tools that support the specific skill for that TEK. And also any of those resources that you've uploaded and tagged to the TEK would also be accessible through the My Resources piece when you are in this view. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. My mouse is starting to react a little bit here. And the reason why I wanted to highlight those renderings is because we just added the diagnostic assessment into the system. And so this is literally even my first view of this as we're doing this demonstration, because it wasn't there earlier when I was doing a demo earlier today. So I simply clicked on that diagnostic. The diagnostic assessment is only available within our online platform. So for those customers who have only purchased print, they don't have access to it, but they can license into the online at a very limited price above the printed materials, and then they can have full access to the online content along with these diagnostic tools. So you can see in this particular example, that is 34 items for the third grade test. Students would log in, and this is like the view that the students would have. So this is you as a teacher. This is your preview view. Now, you may choose to use the diagnostic assessment as a guided instruction in the classroom. Perhaps maybe you go in and have the students complete it first, submit, you see the score. You could also then pull this up in a screen share in a Zoom meeting or on your projector or whiteboards and go back through the items and model and help all the students that way as well. So the online offers you those capabilities. And you'll see that all the online tools are on and available for you as a teacher to leverage while you're modeling in the classroom. It will also give you complete access to the student guide. So everything that the students will have access to in their print and or online, you have access to on your login as well in the same interactive format that the way the student might have it. Now, there are two things that are not showing on this screen that will be in the next iteration for back to school. I will have another button on both of these screens that will say turn off answers or show answers. I'm not sure, can't remember which labeling they used, because you'll notice the correct response is already identified here. And that's because when we're in preview mode, those answer responses are there for you as a teacher. But if you're going to use this to model for instruction, you would be able to turn that off so that as a teacher, you are pulling up onto the screen and then modeling that content. The other thing that's not on here right now too is another little button that will allow you to throw this image, either one, up into a full screen view. So right now, just kind of mirror that. If I were to go back to a single view here, I've got my toggle for multi-view and single view. I go to the single view. It's going to allow me to open up and expand on that student side. I would then turn off showing the correct responses, and then I could just simply minimize each side and minimize my toolbar to increase the size for displaying. That's one option, or you would hit the pop-up option, which would throw this image into a full screen view, and then you can very easily hit your escape key to minimize it back down to this view. And again, as I mentioned, the online tools here that would be necessary for doing the markup while you're modeling are enabled in the preview mode for you. And then you have to engage or turn these on for the students when you release the assignment. I do want to highlight another thing that's a feature that is going to be in the back to school that is new and not in my demo account yet, but I'll get you to the page where it is. When we were in the student tracking page, there will be a tab up here. As you see, you have different access to different things from the tracking, but there'll be an accommodations tab. With the accommodations tab, when you click, it'll open up your class roster, and then it'll also open all of those online test taking tools. And you can select the students that are on 504 or based on an IEP, check mark those students and check mark the accommodation that they need to have accessible when they are doing their work. The system moving forward will always recognize that. So when you go into your ThinkUp content and release it, like say you're releasing this assignment, it will already know that you've identified certain students that are required to have text to speech in place for a 504 or based on their IEP. And then if there are certain students that it's required to have access to the protractor or any of the calculating tools, then again, it will already automatically recognize that. You do not have to worry about grouping those students, releasing the assignment with the accommodations, and then go back and re-releasing the assignment for those students that are not on an accommodation. While we're in this release mode, I definitely want to just highlight for you that you have access to some really cool things that when students are doing their work online and you are in face-to-face instruction, so whether they're in the classroom on a personal device or an assigned device or in a lab setting, and you don't want them moving away and like finishing early or trying to cheat and go off to another site, you can check mark this secured assessment, which locks them into that assignment. They cannot navigate away until they have submitted their assignment. They can't pause it and do that. They have to submit the assignment. You can also randomize the questions and answers. This way, when if they are in close proximity, they cannot look onto each other's screen and see anything that would not be able to cheat in that regard. So you've got those special tools that you can make accommodate the students with. And then you can also plan out your work ahead of time. So you can go in through the table of contents, pick different assignments based off of your scope and sequence, and then go ahead and pre-schedule them as to where they're going to fall within your pacing schedule, and make the start and end date in the system as to also even a particular time of day when it's going to be made available. Currently, the default is the work or the assignments are not timed. But if you want to specifically on those assessments and you're going to restrict them to a specific period of time to complete those assignments, particularly the assessment assignments, then you can turn it to a time test, determine how long is it going to be, and then you can also even display a warning however many minutes you choose so that the students get that prompt that you only have 5 or 2 minutes left before this assignment is going to no longer be accessible for you. Now, when you're releasing an assignment, I really love this 4th step. It's an optional step, but what this does is it looks very much like the authoring window, and it is essentially. That's the functionality of it. But what you're able to do is when a student logs in, if you provide anything here within the instruction, it will pop up a window as they open and launch that assignment. And so if there's maybe just you want to put some comments to the students, or you want to give them instructions about how they're supposed to proceed through the assignment, or if you want to provide, if it's not an assessment but it's just an assignment and they are going to be working remotely or independent from you, you might put some specific steps, probing questions that they should be thinking about, example problems. You also can input multimedia. So if you want to embed a video of you modeling or an audio file of you giving instructions, or if there's some illustrations or links, you can grab that and drop them in here so that when the student logs in, they can view that information and get ready and prepared to then go in and complete the assignment. And then the last step is just releasing your work. So you have some filtering options here. So this would be your class and sections. So if you have multiple classes, when you click apply the filters, they will appear down below. So if you're teaching multiple classes, if you want to release an item to an individual student or a group of students that you've grouped together, then you can go to your class roster and then just check mark the students that you want this assigned to, or check the group of students that you've already paired or teamed up and that this assignment is going for. And once you've made that check mark and clicked, you just release the assignment. And you'll notice you can also preview the assignment from the view test mode, and you could generate right here that pre-slug scan sheet if they are going to be doing the work in the printed materials in the classroom. You would go ahead and release the assignment via the online, but generate the pre-slug scan sheet, do the work with the printed materials, have the students transfer their scores or input their responses there, and then now you can scan and have that in your grade book and your reporting to follow along with. I'm going to X out of this. And before I go any further, I do want to pause again to see if there are any questions that are in the chat that I need to address from what I've shared so far.
No current questions right now. I'm not sure if anyone would like to take themselves off of mute, jump in with a question.
Okay. Taking the appropriate pause, so I think we're good here. So I'm going to go ahead and, excuse me, go back to my multi-view. So if you remember, I minimized off my teacher side, minimized off my student side. So I can simply grab and click on these arrows to bring them back out for a side-by-side view of the content. I'm still in single preview, so even though I expanded on the student guide, we're still in that other view. So once I hit the multi-preview, go from single to multi, and my mouse is, oop, I just double clicked on it. I think the battery is dying in my mouse. But then that allows you to get back into those side-by-side previews. And then you also have a lot of different capabilities. You can grab any screen, right, where you see the line and drag it to size the other window out. You can do the same thing with the sidebars for if you want to get a fuller view of the definition or description of the content from a navigation purposes. I believe in the future we're going to have where you can just hover and it'll pull up and pop up the full listing if it's in a minimized view. So that way you don't have to keep dragging it open or closed if you want to read or see more information. The content is organized when it comes to our science. It's organized by reporting category. For math, it's simply in a chronological sequence of the TEKs. And then reading, it's going to be somewhat by genre and by the focus TEK. Organization. So navigating and sourcing content, super easy. So if you are in your pacing guide and you know that 3.3 is where you're addressing, you can just go and click on any one of the tiles here off in the teacher's guide to access that content. And then you'll see the access to the instructional content. So the assign section is just where we've aggregated all of the assignable pages that you would release for students to complete online that would be for a grade. The other pages within the materials that are strictly for instruction are going to be found within these sections here. So the getting started piece is a great section within every single unit, because what we have done is our master teachers who are on our authoring team for our content development, they break down and clarify every single TEK so that you get a detailed breakdown of what is the student supposed to understand from the prerequisite skills, what is it that we're going to be doing within our focus instruction, so where are we taking them in the learning process. And then within each of the different grade levels, we also provide a teacher-to-teacher tips piece. So in some cases, it's literally named that teacher tip. In our ELAR, it's just simply the last section of the clarifying of the TEKs. And so these strategies and sometimes talking about different graphic organizers and tools that you can leverage in the classroom that best support helping students build to mastery of those skills. And then the other thing that our ThinkUp content that really separates off from other instruction that you might be experiencing is the integration of the 9 traits of critical thinking. And this integration is there because what we want to be able to provide you as an instructional facilitator who is facilitating learning, the ability to help students understand the cognitive process they need to undertake while they're trying to become skillful and more deep, having a more deep understanding and becoming a more skillful learner. So the 9 traits of critical thinking from Dr. Sandra Love and Dr. Rebecca Stoball are really based off of looking at the last 40 years of research and identifying in highly skilled professions the types of traits that these individuals demonstrate when they come across complex problems that there's not a known solution for. And so as we look at each student expectation statement for every TEK, we dissect it so that we can identify what is the cognitive domain as defined by Revised Bloom's taxonomy, and what is the cognitive process as defined by Webb's depth of knowledge. And then we author our question stems to support both the domain and the process. And so that's why the rigor is so high within the Mentoring Minds ThinkUp curriculum. And so we're challenging students to think at those high levels, but what we wanted to then provide is the ability for you as an instructional facilitator, as a classroom teacher, the ability to help model and discuss that cognitive process that a student will use in order to better understand how to break down those complex problems. And so every unit is going to have that focus on the 9 traits of critical thinking, and we integrate them into our learning targets so that as a I'm going to go ahead and open up the unit 1 on the student side. And as we go into, excuse me, the getting started section for the students, you can see that they have their learning targets. And let me minimize this so we can get our student view back into a larger section. So we make sure that we break down those I will statements and I can statements depending on the subject area in order to, A, take the burden off of you. B, we also want to make sure that what we do is take the 9 traits of critical thinking, and we don't do all 9 traits in every single unit. What we do is identify those 2 traits that best support the learning target or that cognitive process. And then we provide you the tools to help students start to think about and understand what it is. And then we like to really use those metacognitive strategies so that the students are having to ink their thinking at the same time, right? They're having to bring in ask those questions about, well, how is it that reflecting is going to help me, acquire this objective, and then actually write those down and put them into play. So on those students, on their side, they're going to have those definitions. They're going to be asked those probing questions. And then in the example here, they could annotate the page on the screen, or what they would do is really work on a piece of paper to write those out for themselves in the classroom. Or if they are remote, then do the same there. So we want to make sure that we build that into every single unit. And then with the instruction themselves, what we want to make sure that we're providing for you as a teacher, and I know I'm going through language arts in this example, and some of you may be math and science teachers, but the units are organized in that same workflow, in the same vertical alignment, and follows the same kind of 5E instructional model pathway that we've developed. And so every unit is going to have a getting started section that's going to offer that exact same breakdown of the clarifying of the standards, the ability to have the teacher-to-teacher tip, the learning targets being broken down, and the 9 traits of critical thinking infusion. Then they're going to offer up a vocabulary section so that you have the ability to build that academic language in students across those content areas. Vocabulary development is critical, and we put a very high emphasis of that in there. You'll notice that on this page here, the tools are here. So this is for when you are doing those screen sharing, you have the ability to, even in these non-assignable pages that you're doing direct instruction with the students, you can highlight, underline, and strike through on these pages. And then the students on their end can do the same as they follow along and do that work. So we make sure that that interaction is there and readily available. And then we also want to make sure that you have some great activities to do with instruction so that students can then be paired off in partners, or maybe even do some things independently, or that you can lead in whole class activities that are going to be multisensory and engaging for students. And what we also try to do with these activities is, if there is a requirement with the activity to find some expository texts, a graphic organizer, or value mats or things of that nature, we embed those PDFs right here on the screen for you. This particular activity I'm demonstrating doesn't require that kind of a consumable or collectible resource, but we also provide those PDFs on the student side. So if they are working from home remotely and you're doing a shared screen via Zoom or Teams with the student, then they also have the ability to download that PDF and either put it on a tab in their browser and annotate it, or to print it off and work with it in that tactile way as well. So all of the tools that you need to be successful is laid out for you in the online. You're going to have access to the same content. It is mirrored. So the key differences between the students' interaction with the content online versus print is going to be where we might be able, where we have enhanced the item through technology enhanced items. So whereas in the print materials, I may have interacted it one way, but in the online, I might be doing a drag and drop or something that is technology enhanced to increase student engagement while working with the content. And also, as we move forward and as TEA is moving to online testing, those what they call TEI items are going to become more and more prevalent, even in print-based content, in order to prepare students for those 21st century skills that they need. I'm going to pause again to see if there are any questions, because we are getting to those final 15 minutes of the session, and I want to make sure that we have time to answer questions as they come up.
There are no current questions. I'm not sure if someone was taking themselves off of mute or.
Okay. So if there are questions, feel free to take yourself off mute and pause me, as well as simply type in a question or hit the raise the hand function. But I wanted to jump over to the student login. So one thing to note, we are able to integrate with all different forms of systems. So I don't know if maybe you're using Google Class in your classroom as a means of communicating with students that are working remotely. We are certified with Google for Google Class and integration. So would still log into their Google Classroom, and you are able to go into our Mentoring Minds and link those assignments directly to Google Class. Students will simply jump back and forth between their assignments in Google Class and not even know that they've left and went into a new platform. And so these are some really great tools, as well as your grading of the answers will be shared. So your Google Gradebook can be populated very easily. And then we're also certified through Canvas and Clever and ClassLink and Skype. So they're not knowing what all you have accessible within your classroom and your campus. If you need them linked, we have those abilities to set those up for you. So, but when the student, if they were to log directly into their Student Center or click on the Mentoring Mind tile off of their Clever account or ClassLink, then it would just take them directly to this page. And then what they would be able to do is access any assignments that have been released. I'm going to refresh because I had this up all day and it timed out on me. And so when they log in, they can access their assignments either through the My Assignments tab, or they can go directly into the curriculum and launch into the content. And if there's something assigned for them, it would appear here in the middle screen if they know that they're on Unit 3. If you had assigned an item from there, then that would appear here in the center page that they have an assignment to complete and they can launch. Otherwise, and that view in the center page would basically be this with that window of their tab of their book open, and that one assignment or a couple of assignments that have been released. The reason why we have the two sections here is if you choose to author any of your own items and you want to release those and assign them out, then this is where the students would access that and both the ThinkUp and that assignment. So whatever you named it, you might have said it's going to be the quick answer key to page 7 and Unit 1, and that can be done and used for any content area, whether it's Mentoring Minds curated or not. You can build answer keys to support the responses for that content to get them graded and uploaded into the system. And so you'll see I'll have that ELAR Unit 1 3rd grade pre-assessment listed here. This is an example here with this math interactive review activity of a self-curated or authored piece. So I just want to show you an example of what it could look like as you create content. This is the window that shows the instructions for that step 4 when I was releasing the assignment. That's the same process for releasing your own self-curated content. So I've read the information, now I'm in, and you can see I've got my tools turned on. The system does have an incredible graphing calculator available for those upper grades and grade levels that's necessary. We also have the scientific calculator available. You know, these are things that a lot of campuses spend a lot of money on that are now embedded within the system. And then, of course, your tools, including text-to-speech. So with the text-to-speech function, students do have for certain settings. They can speed it up or slow down the speech. They can change the color contrast of the font as the words are highlighted and read to them, and they can change the speech mode from clicking to hovering over. So it's good to give students the ability to have those options to kind of self-personalize, especially when it comes to the speed. Some kids will get bored if it's too slow. Other students, it's like if it's too fast, they can't keep up. And so making sure that they can set that for themselves on their own. And so in here you see a Khan Academy was embedded into the item, like the way I was highlighting for you as we were showing the example for authoring items. And then the response type was an open response. So the instructions when we opened it up said watch the videos and then input your responses. And here's the questions again that they're being asked to show their information. And you'll see there was just 2 questions that were created for this. So this might have been an example of an exit ticket that a teacher would use for students to advance to the next, or even as a bell warmer. The students do have the ability to change the contrast. This is very important if you have students in your classroom that are dyslexic, especially if they're severely dyslexic. Being able to do those overlays are very important, and the students can self-select the overlay that works best for them to maintain focus and keep those words from floating around on the screen as they do when they are in a straight black and white format. And then for those students that are impaired, they also have control over the magnification of their screen and being able to simply drag it to size it to what they need to help them as they're interacting with the instruction. Another feature that's nice is that they can pause their work at any time, save and exit, and then they can launch back in and restart where they left off. So if it was a change of period, lunch is occurring, fire drill, they can save their work and move, or they can just simply go back to resuming their assignment. If they go to submit their work, when they submit the assignment, they can submit from up here or they can submit from the bottom. What it will do is let them know whether or not they missed any items, meaning that they forgot to provide an answer choice. And then if they had flagged any items, it'll let them know that you have flagged 1 or 2 items. You as a teacher will be able to see in the system any item that was flagged. And then the student, if they choose to add a comment because they were struggling, the student can choose this, type in a comment, and then submit. You'll see that in the grade book, any comments, items or students who have submitted work with a comment, and then you can go in and support that and do what you need to do to meet the student at point of need. Or the student sees that they missed an item, they can simply return back to the test. I pause this to save it for future use. Click OK. And then the other piece that's important is that parents and guardians are also provided a login password and ID to go in and check on how their children are doing. So they'll have access to the student performance reports, and any comments that you've provided. You're able to push out communications to the parents and guardians. So you'll see you got this little icon over here with the envelope for like an email. So it does function in that regard, but I want to first launch this the student data reports that both the individual student and the parent will have, or guardian will have access to. So any of the subject areas that the student is licensed into is going to be made available for them. You've got a great speed dial where they can quickly see how they're doing. And then they've got assignment per assignment, how they did, along with where they're at from a meeting or exceeding expectations are perfect. So parents can see that, as well as the parent and individual student can see from a standards mastery, a TEAC for TEAC, where they are. So the definition is broken down for them, student expectations, and then where are they towards mastery of those skills. So this is great when you're doing parent-teacher conferencing. And then again, going back to the email piece, so this provides you the ability for direct bidirectional interaction with the students and with their parent and guardian. Students cannot interact with anybody but you as their teacher. They cannot do peer-to-peer communications, but it also allows you to post announcements so that if a parent or guardian logs in, like that gray box that popped up when the student went into the assignment, there'll be an announcement board that pops up for the parent and guardian for you to inform them of the upcoming parent-teacher conferencing dates, to inform them of testing windows, or assignments that have been posted and that are due. And then you also have the ability, and the students will see that when they log into their site as well as you can simply just send them a message directly to an individual or even to the whole class as needed. So those are built-in capabilities within the system. Just like the way that the teacher account was set up, instead of tabs across the top, anything that the student opened up is still open and available for them to jump back and forth into. From here, they have to X out of those sections in order before they have to go back and relaunch them once they do. Pause again for any questions or thoughts or comments on the information that has been shared with you today.
No comments currently. If anyone would like to remove themselves off of mute, please feel free.
So one thing we encourage you to do is please include your email in the chat with your name so that we can provide you with access to some of the other free content. And then also, I'm going to post this recording. It'll be a YouTube link so that you'll be able to view it. So there'll also be the last week's 11 a.m. session on that same channel. So if you want to watch that one, feel free. But this one has more content because last week we didn't have the pre-assessments or those other features that I just highlighted. So it will be labeled as the HISD 1 p.m. session, and I will attach and upload that into this Teams chat thread so that all of you will have direct access to save that down and save that link down and view it at a later date, or to share it with a colleague that was not able to attend this session. So I will say in summary that is our digital access for ThinkUp Online and our instructional management platform. Marcella, Heidi, and myself will stay on the line straight through until the 2 o'clock hour. But if you do not have any questions and you feel that everything has been met, feel free to move on and get prepared for your next session. Otherwise, we will remain to answer any questions as they come up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, teachers, administrators, and HISD. We're here to serve you. Just reach out to us via email or phone call, and we'll answer whatever questions you may have.